I started trapping rats probably about 6 years ago, and it coincided with myself being able to get chickens within Ferndale. Everybody told me, you're going to bring rats into Ferndale. You're going to ruin the town. It's going to be a rat city. And so probably about 2 months into having chickens, I saw my first rat. Lo and behold, I had sworn up and down it's never going to happen because my chickens are contained, their feed is contained, we wrote it into the ordinance, that everything would be contained. But, as most people in this audience probably know, sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's a neighbor. So in my case, I found out as I went down the rat hole, so people go down the rabbit hole finding out information, I've gone down the rat hole, and I've gone probably too deep, honestly. But in learning about rats, I found that they travel 50 to 300 feet every single night looking for food. So it doesn't have to be you. It's not a taboo thing. It's not you necessarily. It could be you, but it might be your neighbors, which is why we talk about neighbors and getting community involvement and engagement and getting people motivated. I got motivated not just because of the rat that was in my backyard, and I know nobody can see this, but if you want, it's online. I will make this available. I will send it to the city so that you can see the full presentation that I've been doing in Ferndale, Royal Oak, Berkeley, Beverly Hills, Warren. I was just on Warren Public TV, Madison Heights, and Hazel Park. I'm making the rounds because this is important. And I got involved because I watched an entire family of owls die. I saw 2 adults and about 4 babies, and I watched them just croak over time because I hadn't really been involved in the way that I should have been in my area. And I was just trapping in my yard. I wasn't going door to door like I do now because I'm the crazy person. I'm the person that brought all this up here and I have a rat diorama. So make of that what you will. But after watching those owls die, and realizing that we had such a significant problem within the city, and it wasn't just my problem, it was everybody's problem. And everybody was talking about it, and thank God for Facebook, because Facebook gets all that information out there, and we can all start talking about it. So because of that, long story short, for 6 years I've been trapping rats. And in 2016, there was a citizen group in Ferndale that brought it to the city and said, "City, I want you to do something. I want you to do something now." So we came out, we had a pest control person here. And thank God for our pest control people because they do good service. But they came out and said, use our poison, don't feed birds, don't harm them, pick up your dog waste because we all feed our dogs these fancy dog foods that are grain-free and it just passes right on through and we've got great rat food out there. And all of that makes sense, except I want a garden and I want to feed the birds. And I don't want to use a pest control person because I'm cheap. No offense, I'm cheap. So, with all of that said, I was also in the audience. I became known as the rat lady in Ferndale because why not? Just because I talk about it. And again, I know you can't see this deep in the wings over there, but this picture, my poor husband had to endure me trotting out this picture of 7 dead rats at every event that we went to because I would not stop talking about it. I wanted everybody to know that we had a problem and that you can solve it, but you have to be active. Not just you, but your neighbors, and sometimes you on behalf of your neighbors, if you're willing to do it. So when we engaged with the city, they said, use your pest control person, end of story. As a result, in 2016, we formed the Ferndale Rat Patrol, and the Ferndale Rat Patrol started a campaign that lasted a month just to manage and monitor how many rats we had, because there was this idea that we had rats in the downtown because of all the restaurants. And I love the restaurants, and I also suspected them. But it turned out, and again, I've got graphics for all of this because, again, crazy person, I mapped it. I wanted to know where the rats were. I wanted every single report of a rat, sightings of rats, killings of rats. I mapped all of it because I have the time, whatever. And because of that, I found out that it was widespread. It's not just the restaurants, it's not the bars, it's not just Tim Hortons. although it was pretty much Tim Hortons. It wasn't just the south side or the bad side of town. It was up by Pleasant Ridge. It was in my neighborhood. Not as much, because I can tell you, for 6 years, I went door to door in my neighborhood. I became that person. I trapped in my yard, and then I went to my neighbor's yard, and I said, knock, knock. Hi, neighbor. I saw a rat go into your backyard earlier today. Can I go back there and see if you have a burrow? Because if I can find the burrow, I can kill all of them. So what do we know about rats? We've got this great handout here that tells you a lot of good information about the rats, but I'm going to tell you a couple other things that we don't have on the handout. Number one, terrible eyesight. I've seen a rat look me dead in the face from its burrow and not really understand what it was looking at, and it wasn't scared of me. Number two, great sense of smell, and the gentleman that had mentioned bleach, he's already gone. The reason we talk about bleach is because as rats walk, they urinate. Some people like to say they're incontinent. They're not technically incontinent, but they urinate as they walk. They leave that scent trail behind. They rub their bodies against things because their eyesight's not great. So much like a kitty cat, they're going to walk along the edge of the wall so their whiskers can brush against it, so that they can feel that surface, and that's a protection element as well. So we know bad eyesight, good sense of smell, and we know that they are traveling and that they live underground. That makes it very easy to find them. And so I became the weirdo, and I went around and I found them, and I killed each and every one of them because they're a non-native animal, they're an invasive species, they cannot be here, and we cannot be complacent. If we're complacent, if we're not vigilant, they thrive. They breed so fast and they outcompete our chipmunks. Rats commit muricide. So again, I've gone too deep. Rats commit muricide if there are native field mice, native chipmunks, any sort of native rodent. If they smell that rat or see that rat, they usually evacuate the area because they know that rat, that's almost like a predator to them. That rat can go into our chipmunk burrows, they can kill the chipmunk, and they can take all that chipmunk's food. Right now is the perfect time to do it. The chipmunks are pulling all their food into the burrow, and now that gives the rat an opportunity to go in there, live there, have that big cache of food, and survive our winter, because our winters are brutal. So, long story short, again, because I have a ton of information here, I'm not going to go into all of it. What I started doing back in 2016 was organizing. It started out with 20 of us. We're up to about 1,400 people. And with 1,400 people, we're not all just in Ferndale. We're talking about Warren, we're talking about Hazel Park, all of our neighboring cities, including people here in Taylor. There are people that are involved in all places, and those people are good volunteers who can help you out. And we specialize in non-poison means. Poison has its place, for sure. The reason I don't like poison is, again, I saw a whole bunch of owls die. And when you see a whole bunch of owls die, and you hear about neighbors who have pets get sick, you hear about neighbors who have dogs die, you see these videos online of little dogs having the hemorrhaging from the anticoagulant poison. When you see that, it's horrifying. And when you find out, there's information online from the, I want to say, Department of Agriculture in California. The main ingredient in our second-gen anticoagulant poisons is called bromadiolone, right? So with bromadiolone, it can persist in the body for 8 months. Now, what does that mean to your dogs and your cats and your predators? It means that all it takes is a little bit. It's not going to kill them right away, but it bioaccumulates over time. So the more they eat of it, the closer they get to having that internal bleeding, having that hemorrhaging. It's bad news, and it's bad for our predators. We have places like Warren. Warren has been poisoning, and the city has been poisoning. So the city has actually been going home to anybody who requests it, finding if they have rats, and giving them poison for free. So that's what you're looking at when a city gets involved. That city has been involved doing that for 10 years. Their problem with rats has gotten worse and worse. every single
Taylor did get free poison too.
Right. So, with that said, poison, again, it has its place. Poison, in my mind, is something that we tend to recommend. Bromethylene is a neurotoxin that has been sort of shifted to in agricultural areas like California, primarily because they're seeing such an impact on their wildlife. So bromethylene, it's very quick. Bromadiolone, your anticoagulant, takes time, it accumulates, the rats wander around, and if you have poison in your backyard, you're probably not going to see a dead rat in your backyard. But your neighbors might, and your vultures might, and your hawks. Right now, it's hawk migration season. They're coming from up north, they're traveling down south. If they see a dying rat wandering around in the day, it's a great food source, so they eat it. So time and time again, we see these things. Use a bromethylene type poison, request it when you're working with a pest control company. Why? It changes in the body, it doesn't bioaccumulate. It acts very fast, 48 hours roughly. So always, if you're going to go that route, get something like that. Be smart about it, get the thing that's going to work fast, but keep in mind, that rat is going to go into that box, and yes, the bait stays inside the box. Don't use the pellets. I can't remember who said that they were using little packets of poison. Don't use pellets. Rats will take it, stuff it in their cheeks. If you've ever had a hamster, you've seen hamsters stuff their cheeks, rats do the same thing, and then they run home. And if they get startled, they drop it. And now you've got dogs and cats that can potentially eat it, as well as your chipmunks, as well as your rabbits, as well as anything that is interested in eating something. So if you do it, get the big chunks, go through a poison control company. There are chunks that you can buy yourself. I have an example up here, but get chunks so that they take little bits and they tend to eat it on site, just like she said. However, if you really want to kill some rats, and I know you do because I do too, if you really want to kill some rats and you really want to make a dent, find the burrow. When you find that burrow, remember, rats sleep during the day. So you don't have to worry about them unless they're the juveniles, unless you have a lot of rats in an area. Those juveniles, they're usually out during the day because they're lower in the social order. So with them being low in the social sort of pecking order, they don't get to feed at night the way that our big adult rats do. So they go out in the day. They try to find food wherever they possibly can. If you go and find that burrow, look for 3 holes, much like this diorama. Again, I know people in the back probably can't see it. Look for 3 holes. Look for sloppy holes. Rats are not elegant creatures. They are sloppy, they dig big holes, and the holes go in at an angle. So if you have chipmunks in your area, it's easy to tell the difference between the two. Chipmunks, nice little tidy hole. They don't throw that dirt around the way that rats do. And additionally, you can usually take a stick, put it in the hole, it'll go straight down. That's a chipmunk hole. With a rat, it's going to go in an angle. So easy to spot. When you find them, look around your fence lines, look around your foundation, look around your sidewalk, look underneath things like your decks. Does anybody have a deck here? You got a deck? Does anybody have a crawl space here? You all have my deepest sympathies.
Yeah.
Because those are the #1 offender for places that rats live. They love it. Does anybody have a stump from a tree that they cut down and the stump hasn't been ground out? Anybody? Yep. Yep. So rats want something sheltering them. So they're looking for a roof. A deck is a roof. Your sidewalk is a roof. Your foundation is a roof if it's not deep enough. Your crawl space is definitely the best possible option for them, and even tree stumps. They can get in those roots, and they can make a nest, and it's perfect. Keeps them dry, keeps predators out. So my dogs